Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Chase and today I am reviewing AEW Dynamite from March 22nd, 2023 featuring the dream match of Kenny Omega versus Vikingo. I hope you're all doing well. I'm just out of the hairdressers. I have a new look. This show's also going to be a little bit different today. But before we get started, let me remind you all to subscribe to this channel. Hit that subscribe button. Don't be a twat. And also go follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Stephanie M. Chase. And go check out the links to my OnlyFans and Patreon in the description box. So straight off the bat, I thought this was an excellent Dynamite. I really loved it. And I was really like gagging to talk about it today. So there's a lot to get into. So they really tried to fool us early here because we started with the usual Dynamite opening theme, but then no, we went straight to the outside of the arena where the Young Bucks were being taken away in an ambulance. This was straight out of Nitro and I absolutely loved it. The only thing I would have said is I actually would have done a fully cold opening, like none of that Dynamite song before that. I would have just started the show with the Young Bucks being put into an ambulance. Kenny Omega was there. He was so stressed out about it. But Don Callis was trying to keep Kenny's focus on the match that he had coming up tonight with Vikingo. Hangman was being the man and he was getting in the ambulance with the Young Bucks. So who attacked the Young Bucks? That was the big question starting off Dynamite. This was such a cool way to open. Also very interesting to note that they showed a production truck here when the Young Bucks were being put in the ambulance, and then they had all these like strategically placed boards and stuff over what? Over CM Punk. I saw that, I laughed, and I knew I had a photo of that production truck from my time in Chicago, just literally about a day before Brawl Out happened. Then we got straight into a trios match. So it is Orange Cassidy, Sting, and Darby Allin versus the Butcher, the Blade, and Kip Sabian. Orange Cassidy came out first. This was so funny. He had painted on his face OC, the laziest way you could possibly do face paint if you're teaming with Sting, but it was very funny. It took Tony Schiavone a while to catch on as to what he actually had written on his face. Then we had Darby Allin, and then Sting, who turned 64 the day before this came out, and I just want Sting to know if he's watching that my age limit is 65, so hit me up. Can they not turn out the lights for Sting? They can turn out the lights for everyone else. Why can't they turn out the lights for Sting? Anyway, he looked amazing. He was in a bomber jacket because he is 64 but still hip, cool, and sexy. I wish that Tony just loved Sting a little bit more to make every time that Sting wrestles feel like a huge event, because here he was doing it on Dynamite in a 6-man with Butcher, Blade, and Kip Sabian. Then we had the heel team come out. Kip Sabian looked like a Hot Topic Tim Burton section threw up on him. This match was a whole lot of fun. The best stuff was Sting mimicking Orange Cassidy spots. Like he did the weak kicks and then he did a really weak chest pound as well. It was so funny. In the end, Sting got the win after getting a Scorpion death drop on Kip Sabian, and after the match, Orange Cassidy put his glasses on Sting, whereas Darby Allin, he was staring at the Double or Nothing banner like it was a WrestleMania sign. Now, some people didn't like this. To WWE, for them, I actually did not mind this at all. I mean, the idea of like pointing to the WrestleMania sign and looking at the WrestleMania sign has become a bit of a meme, but it is also a good way to like convey what the focus is on. And this is a good way to show us that after the whole 4 Pillars promo last week, that Darby Allin is focused on Double or Nothing, where I guess he is hoping for a match with MJF. But this was so good, and I think that Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, and the Stinger are a nice little trio. Then we saw a video package telling us more about Vikingo. Excalibur had been slowed down to eulogy speed. It sounded like he was trying to tell us that something terrible had happened. Then Excalibur informed us that Brandon Cutler is his source and has been texting him updates on the Young Bucks and pointed the finger at Blackpool Combat Club as being responsible for the attack. Then we had the AEW Tag Team Champions, the Guns, versus Top Flight. The Guns, Austin and Colton, were in some great Shawn Michaels tribute gear. They are not quite Shawn Michaels, but no one could be. But the tribute gear is very cool. I thought this was a pretty good match, but the end came when we had interference from the Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. They attacked Dante Martin when he was on the floor and the referee was not looking. And then Dante rolled back into the ring, into the 310 to Yuma. and the Guns won. So after the match, Top Flight and the Kingdom were brawling. That's all Ring of Honor stuff, really. And then out came FTR. Now, Colton was like, no one wants to see FTR. Basically, FTR want another match with the Guns. But the Guns said there is no way that you're getting that. So FTR tried to bargain. Cash explained that if they lost, they would never team in AEW again. But Austin was like, no. And then Dax said, if they lose, they will quit AEW. The Guns then accepted this and then spat on them and ran off. FTR, the greatest tag team in the world, putting their careers on the line as Jim Cornette watched on. I didn't mind this segment at all. The whole thing of you're never getting another shot, then of course it's going to lead to like a bit of wrestling bargaining. And what are you going to do but put your career on the line? Really though, like them having to split up and just be in AEW together but never team would be like this great tragic love story. But anyway, that's not what the Guns went for. Dax definitely rubs people the wrong way with his Twitter. That guy is working 24/7, whether he's tweeting or podcasting. And I have to say, like, I love Dax and I kind of relate to him a little bit with how, you know, kind of serious he can take things. So I'll never, you know, dislike the guy, but I can see why people find his Twitter stuff so annoying. And recently he's been saying that FTR hasn't re-signed with AEW. They don't know what they're going to do. Their contract's up in April. People really dispute this. So at least all of Dax's annoying Twitter stuff is actually leading to something on the show here. I guess it's easier now for the fans to buy into the fact that FTR might lose here if they're on Twitter trying to say as a shoot that they don't know if they're staying or leaving AEW. We then had Renee backstage with Jade Cargill, Mark Sterling, and Layla Gray. Basically, Mark is issuing a cease and desist to Taya Valkyrie because she uses Jade's finisher. And this Friday on Rampage, we are going to have Layla Gray, who I really struggled to remember the name of here, versus Taya Valkyrie. I loved this. We had Hook versus Stokely Hathaway in a no disqualification match. Stokely came out Nation of Domination tribute gear. He looked awesome. He was out with the rest of the firm behind him and they went to the back to watch him and monitor, leaving him all alone. Then Hook came out for the ladies. This was so great. So before the match, Hathaway took the mic and said that he talked to Doc Samson earlier and he's not cleared to wrestle. He then handed Justin Roberts a note that just said he's sick on it, and Justin Roberts read it out and said it was actually just a receipt for Wingstop. So anyway, poor Stokely had to go ahead with the match. The bell rang, Stokely ran away, Hook then ran into the crowd, which, wow, imagine being in that crowd with Hook just milling around you. Hook absolutely launched Stokely in an overhead suplex on the floor. Like, Stokely was bumping for his money tonight. Hathaway then at one point sprayed Hook with a fire extinguisher, and then he got a chair and said, "I'm not a killer, but don't push me." That's from Tupac. But Hook blocked Hathaway using the chair, and then he set up a railing and just launched Stokely into it. This looked pretty brutal. Then he was about to get the 3, but then he pulled Stokely up and decided to put him in the red rum instead. There was also a great moment when the firm were looking on backstage where Ethan Page just went, "We didn't practice any hardcore." This was silly, but it was a whole lot of fun. Stokely was great playing this scaredy cat manager, especially in contrast to Hook, who is always just so cool, calm, and collected. I really, really loved this match. And afterwards, Matt Hardy said that Ethan Page is the one who should avenge Stokely and take on Hook next. And count me in for that match. Ethan is so underutilized. Next, we had a promo from Adam Cole in anticipation of his return to the ring next week and the premiere of All Access, the reality show. Now, me and Benno were placing bets on who it would be that would come out and say that they were Adam Cole's opponent. I got so close because I guessed Chris Jericho, but no, his son Daniel Garcia ran out, and Danny was so eager to be the one to get out first that he didn't even put his shirt on fully properly when he ran out. He looked awesome though. I'm loving his "I'm with the band" makeover. So Daniel Garcia basically said he's been proving himself as a great pro wrestler, quickly corrected himself to say sports entertainer, and that he's become a locker room leader in the back, and that he should be the one to take on Adam Cole. Adam Cole did not think that Danny was up to the challenge and said he needs to lose the security of the JS, but he accepted it and the match is set for next week. Now, I do wonder, this immediately made me think that Adam Cole's Double or Nothing opponent is going to be Chris Jericho, who is absent from the show. However, I would love that, I would love that not to be the case, and for Danny to be actually getting a big singles thing by himself that's not related to JS stuff, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. So very, very hyped though for Daniel Garcia versus Adam Cole next week. And even if this is just something to lead to a Jericho challenge and him taking over the Adam Cole rivalry, I still think it's a great spot for Danny to be in. Then Alex Marvez went to Kenny Omega's locker room and assured us he's meant to be there. He tried to get a word with him and Don Callis. Don Callis was basically being the voice of people like me. And now I never thought that Don Callis would speak for me, but he kind of did here, because he said to Kenny that maybe the Young Bucks getting taken away was the best thing that could happen to him, as it allows Omega to focus on his match with Vikingo later tonight and like his singles career. Next, we had Jon Moxley versus Stu Grayson. This match was fine, but firstly, like, Jon Moxley, commendable that he's such a workhorse, but I do think he's becoming a little bit overused in TV matches. These two guys had negative chemistry, I gotta say. Like, they were just not on the same page for a lot of this, and it was like a little bit messy. But fine match. Moxley won with an Avalanche Death Rider, but these two guys were not perfect dance partners for sure. We then had Renee backstage with Ricky Stark, who is wearing a shirt that contained more charisma than Juice Robinson. He said something along the lines of what Juice attacking him was like the craziest thing that had happened to him in his life, which I really beg to differ with, that it's even the craziest thing that's happened to him this year. But anyway, he issued a challenge to Juice on Rampage, and apparently on Rampage we're going to hear from Ricky again and whether or not Juice accepts. But just these two just have a match, please, and get this over with. We then had the next installment of QTV. This was not very good. This whole thing is not very good. Harley Cameron was showing footage that she filmed herself of Hobbs beating Ray Phoenix. Good for you. And then basically Aaron Solo took credit for Dave Meltzer's Twitter being hacked. Dave's Twitter was hacked or something over the weekend, which led to just men being silly. Children. Because he had said something about WWE not paying for wrestlers' hotels, and Tony Khan, seeing his response but not seeing the original question being about WWE, he wanted everyone to know that he pays for wrestlers' flights and accommodations.
Bless you.
And then some wrestlers jumped in to say that their flights and accommodation was paid for. Good for all you guys. Next, we had Toni Storm defeating Skye Blue. This match was okay. I mean, Toni Storm's great. Skye Blue is learning. At the end of the match, of course, the Outcasts were going to attack Skye Blue, but then we had Willow Nightingale and Rio with her steel pipe come out. You guys know I'm not a fan of this whole storyline, but they really need to do something to give these baby faces some personality, because they're just really not showing anything. Jamie and Britt weren't there this week. Jamie has a visa thing, but even when they are there, and Britt, of course, has like so much personality, they never allow like the baby faces to show them. They just seem totally bland. So we need more focus on the baby faces instead of all this like Outcast nonsense and bad promos that we've been getting every week. And then we were on to the main event, Kenny Omega versus Hijo del Vikingo. This was absolutely freaking awesome. This was one of the best matches that we have ever had on Dynamite. It was so cool. There were so many crazy and innovative spots here from Vikingo. I could not possibly tell you all of them. There was like an incredible springboard 450 splash, an implosion Hurricane Rana. We had a table being used. Omega was on the table, and then Vikingo did a 630 senton off the ropes onto the table. This looked so awesome. We had Omega hitting a V trigger, but Vikingo getting a sunset flip bomb. That was a 2 count. And then Vikingo went to the top. He missed a 630 senton, and then Omega hit a V trigger and a one winged angel and got the win. This match was so great. As I said, like, Vikingo is such an amazing, innovative wrestler, and it's so good for him to get this showcase on North American television. And this was also Kenny's first singles match on Dynamite since November 2021, which was against ALLIN Angels, which is incredible to think of. But we got the best Kenny here. We got Japan Kenny, and it was so great to watch. He looked great, and Vikingo, you know, so impressive. But you have to give Kenny so much praise as well for being the perfect dance partner to him. You know, Kenny, not a luchador, but Kenny's just an incredible professional wrestler, and anyone that is negative on Kenny because some of the stuff that he does in the ring, or they just don't like him, are just ignoring the fact that he's just technically one of the best we've ever seen, and he's so versatile and able to work with anyone. Here he was able to perfectly take all of Vikingo's crazy moves and put together such a well thought out dramatic match that was full of memorable spots but also made total sense. This is why I want to see him do more singles matches, because he is so good in a solo setting, and as great as a lot of the trios matches have been with the Young Bucks, he is so much better when you're able to like just watch him and it's not filled with the Young Bucks also doing their spots. So after the match, we had our sports entertainment segment. Tony Schiavone came to the ring to interview Omega. You know that when you've finished a match and Tony Schiavone approaches you with a microphone, you should be on alerts because some shit is going to go down. Well, it did. We had Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta all coming to the ring to attack Omega. Now, these guys are now wearing hoodies that just say Blackpool Wrestling on them, and they are the cheapest looking hoodies and the most word art font that you could possibly have. They just say Blackpool Wrestling on them. They look absolutely ridiculous, but I think we're at the point where these guys are literally trolling us with this Blackpool Combat Club stuff. As they attacked Omega, we hear that the ambulance is coming back. Yes, Nitro lives. Who has commandeered the ambulance? It's Hangman Page, who looks incredible, like the hero we all need, as he exits the ambulance with a 2x4 with nails. Excalibur's like, Page stole the ambulance, so hopefully the people from the hospital were not watching Dynamite. He went to the ring. Moxley told all his crew to get out. Don Callis went to spin Page. Page didn't know what was happening, and then Callis just totally bumped himself, like he was hit by the Invisible Man. He played dead, so that when Omega came to, he thought that Page had attacked Don Callis, which of course he didn't. Page was like pleading that he didn't, but Omega left with Callis. The crowd were booing. I really enjoyed this ending. There are, of course, some holes that we can poke in it, like, you know, Kenny could just watch the tape and whatever. So we'll have to see, like, what they do with the follow-up, and hopefully they won't make Kenny look like too much of a dummy. But I really liked it. You know, I said last week I wasn't that keen on Hangman going back to all this elite stuff, but I feel now like there could be an interesting wrinkle in it where Don Callis seems to be manipulating things. Is he manipulating stuff because he wants Kenny to be a solo act, or is he doing it because he wants to get rid of Kenny? Like, we don't know. Was the Blackpool Combat Club actually behind the attack on the Young Bucks? Is Don Callis somehow aligned with them? Will Don Callis's burgeoning relationship with Takeshita play into this? Like, who knows? It's actually open. This week opened it up where there's more different angles. I can see them going in with this, which makes it a lot more interesting to me. So I really liked this ending of Dynamite, and I am intrigued. I'm intrigued to watch again next week. That's another reason why it felt very Nitro-esque to me, because when it ended, I wanted more. I wanted to immediately know how this issue between Omega and Hangman and Don Callis is going to be resolved. But also next week, I mean, Kota Ibushi should be in the US because it's WrestleMania week and he is booked on GCW and Bloodsport. So I don't know if Omega needs a friend. I mean, imagine how interesting that would be. So I'm definitely higher on this whole Elite Hangman thing this week than I was last week. And as for who I was the biggest fan of this week, it has to be Vikingo. An amazing performance. What a debut for AEW. He really gave the best possible showing in that match, and he was so exciting to watch. And he also like brought out new moves especially for this match, so you've never seen it all with Vikingo. It's so cool. It's great that he got this opportunity and that everyone's talking about him. So Vikingo, I was the biggest fan of you this week. And that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget and go give me a follow on Twitter at StephanieMChase, and I will see you next time. Bye.